I was rinsing the last bit of gravy off my plate when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Everyone else was still laughing around the Christmas table, too full to move, unwrapping the last of the gifts they didn't pay for. I wiped my hands on a napkin and pulled my phone out, expecting maybe a text from work or a Merry Christmas from a friend. But instead, I saw something that made my heart drop. You've been charged $3,798.45 at Maryland Family Department Store. Another ding. You've been charged $1,250 at Apple. And then another. You've been charged $678.92 at Toy World. What the hell? I opened my banking app and the list kept going. Thousands of dollars in charges from stores I hadn't stepped foot in this holiday season. My throat tightened. My hands started to shake. I looked up at the crowd around the tree. My nieces holding new iPads, nephews showing off VR headsets, my siblings smiling and sipping wine like royalty. I turned to my father, seated comfortably at the head of the table, chuckling at something my cousin said. "Dad," I said, barely keeping it together, did someone use my card to buy all these gifts?" He didn't even blink. "Oh, yeah," he said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "We voted earlier. Since you don't have kids, it just made sense you'd take care of the ones who do." My jaw dropped. "You voted? What do you mean you?" "It's only fair, sweetheart." Mom chimed in without looking at me. "You're doing well. You know how expensive kids are." I felt like the room was spinning. I took a deep breath, stood up slowly, and looked my father dead in the eye. My voice trembled, but my words didn't. "Then you're gonna love what comes next." He chuckled. "Relax, Linda. Don't make this a big thing. It's Christmas." I didn't answer. I just grabbed my coat, my purse, and my phone. I walked out that front door without saying another word. The next morning, my phone would blow up with 53 missed calls, my cousins would be screaming, and my mom would be begging. But that night, I started something they'd never forget. As I walked to my car that night, the cold winter wind wasn't nearly as chilling as the words Dad had said. We voted. That part kept echoing in my head like a cruel joke. Who votes on someone else's bank account? My hands trembled as I pulled the receipt from my email. Over $1,200. Every single gift, every single item for all 7 kids. None of them were mine. I had no kids. I wasn't even married. But apparently that meant I was the designated wallet. I sat behind the wheel, phone still in my hand, screen glowing with the total. Mom had smiled when they handed out the presents. My sister Karen had looked me in the eye and said, "You're so generous, Maddie." And I thought it was just a compliment, not a warning. Back at home, I made myself a cup of tea just to stop my hands from shaking. I wasn't poor, but I wasn't swimming in money either. I worked hard. I budgeted. And I definitely didn't sign up to be Santa Claus for a family that didn't even have the decency to ask. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and thought about how often this had happened in little ways. Paying for dinners because you make more. Buying birthday gifts for kids I barely saw. Flying in for every single family event while they never visited me once. I had always told myself, it's family. It's okay. But this time it wasn't okay. This time it felt like a theft. Like my love had been turned into a debit card they could swipe whenever they pleased. The next morning, I woke up with purpose. I grabbed my laptop and opened my banking app. I saw the charge again, bold and unapologetic. Then I opened the group family chat, the one that usually buzzed with baby pictures, memes, and prayer request messages. I typed one line and hit send. "Dad, I'll be sending you an invoice today for the holiday expenses. Please split it equally among the parents who received gifts. You all have 48 hours. And then I turned off notifications. Within minutes, Karen replied, "What? Is this a joke?" "My brother-in-law." "You agreed, Maddie. We talked about this." Then Dad chimed in. "No need to be dramatic. It's just Christmas. You don't have children and they do. It's fair." I didn't respond. Not yet. I wanted them to sit with that discomfort. By noon, I'd sent out formal invoices via email, itemized with cost, shipping, and even the tax breakdown. And then I waited. I didn't know what hit harder, the silence that followed or the slow realization that none of them had expected me to fight back. But this time, I wasn't going to stay quiet. The house was quiet that evening, just the hum of the refrigerator and the low clink of the spoon in my teacup. But inside me, everything was loud. Thoughts, feelings, years of being the good daughter who never said no. It wasn't just about the gifts. It was about everything they took for granted. I remembered birthdays where no one showed up to mine, but I drove 6 hours for my nephew's dinosaur-themed party. I remembered Mom saying, "You're single, honey. You've got the time," as if that made me less human, more available. I remembered the look in Dad's eyes when I once asked for help with my rent after a layoff. Disappointment, like I had failed the family. I had always been the helper, the emotional fixer, the ATM with a smile, because I thought that's what love looked like. That's what family meant. But as I sat there in my cozy little apartment, alone after giving so much, I realized I was just the easiest to use. And they'd kept doing it because I never stopped them. My chest ached as I scrolled through old photos. Christmases where I wrapped the gifts, cooked the side dishes, and smiled for the camera while holding kids that weren't mine. I'd always told myself that one day they'd appreciate me. One day they'd say thank you. But this year, they took my money, laughed about it behind my back, and acted like I owed them. I started crying quietly, not out of sadness, but because it finally hit me how alone I truly felt in that family. I wasn't a sister. I wasn't a daughter. I was just convenient. My phone buzzed. Again. This time it was a message from Mom. "Maddie, don't make this into a thing. Your siblings are struggling. You know that. Please don't create drama during the holidays." I stared at the screen. Drama? They emptied my account without telling me, and I was the one making drama? I took a deep breath and typed. I didn't create the drama. I just sent the receipt. She didn't reply. That night, I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't from anxiety. It was from clarity. I thought about every time I'd sacrifice my own peace for people who wouldn't even think twice before using me again. And I promised myself this was the last time. They thought I'd cool down, that I'd cave, that I'd be the peacemaker again. But they didn't realize I was done being the punching bag. This wasn't just a fight about gifts. It was about respect, about worth, about finally drawing a line and saying, enough. I knew they were going to push back, but I was ready now, and I had one more surprise coming for them. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, sipping coffee, my laptop open and heart pounding. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. The same family who used me as a bank without permission would now see what happens when the quiet one stops staying quiet. I opened up my budgeting app, pulled the receipts, and totaled everything. Over $2,300 charged to my card, and not a single one of them had offered to pay back even a dime. They had laughed, voted, decided I should pay because I didn't have children, and that was their mistake. Because while I may not have kids, I had power. Financial, legal, and digital. First, I filed a charge dispute with my credit card company. One by one, each charge, from Amazon orders to toy stores to an online boutique my sister-in-law swore she couldn't afford, was documented with screenshots. It was all linked to their shipping addresses and their emails. They were so lazy they didn't even hide it. Next, I drafted a message, polite, clear, and cutting. Hey, just a heads up. I filed a formal dispute with the bank for all the unauthorized charges made on my card. Since I didn't approve them, the bank will be contacting the merchants directly, and it might affect your accounts. I'll be keeping documentation for legal reasons. I hit send to the family group chat. Not one reply, just the 3 little dots, and then silence. But I wasn't done. I remembered how every holiday I hosted. I bought the food. I decorated. My home was their gathering spot. So I created a new group chat, family holiday planning. Then I typed, hey everyone, just a heads up. Christmas at my place is canceled this year. I'll be traveling. Best of luck organizing something else. Red heart. I left the group. It was petty, but it was also power. And then came the final move. I had access to the family's shared photo album, which I paid for. I went in, backed up everything, and removed their access. Years of memories? Still safe, but now mine alone. By noon, my phone started buzzing. Texts, missed calls, emails, cousins asking what happened, mom saying I was being dramatic, dad pretending it was a joke gone too far. But the moment that truly flipped everything? A voicemail from my brother. Maddie, hey, listen, we didn't think you'd take it this seriously. Look, can we just talk? Everyone's really upset. The kids are crying. Mom's crying. Please just stop. Stop? No. This was just the beginning. They thought the quiet girl wouldn't bite back. But I had just reminded them, niceness is not weakness. And when you cross someone who's done nothing but love you, you don't get to decide the consequences. The day after I sent the message, my phone started buzzing uncontrollably. There were so many texts I couldn't keep up. They were begging, pleading. My mom, my dad, my cousins, my brother. They all wanted to know how to fix it. They kept saying it was just a mistake, just a misunderstanding. But I wasn't hearing it. They didn't understand. I had heard those words before. Just a misunderstanding. They had used that excuse to take advantage of me for years. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern of disrespect. But now the tables had turned. And I wasn't going to make it easy for them to crawl back in. The first text I read was from Mom. Maddie, please. It was just a joke. Don't do this. Then my dad. I don't want to lose you over this. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. That's when I made my move. I called the bank and escalated the charge dispute to a higher authority, demanding that they follow through. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about sending a message that I wouldn't be treated like a doormat. The charges weren't coming off my card without consequences, and I wasn't going to make it easy for them. It felt good, empowering. I hadn't realized how much I had been holding back until now. The anger I had stuffed down for years was now rising to the surface, and I was finally letting it out. But I didn't stop there. I made a public post on social media, carefully worded but sharp. It's funny how easy it is for some people to take advantage of the ones who always show up. But I'm not your ATM. I'm not your emotional punching bag. Not anymore. Hashtag family first, hashtag boundaries matter. I knew it would get around. It wasn't meant to just vent. It was meant to hit them where it hurt. Their pride. Their image. Because they'd always been so obsessed with appearances. And now I had turned their holiday season into a public lesson on boundaries. But the real karma came when I got a call from my sister-in-law, the one who'd kept pressuring me to pay for her kids' gifts. She was furious. She demanded to know why I had ruined Christmas for everyone. I didn't flinch. You ruined it when you assumed I was just going to roll over and pay, I said, my voice cold. Next time, maybe ask for consent before making financial decisions with someone else's money. Her silence was the sweetest sound I'd heard all day. Then came the voice message from Dad. He sounded desperate, his voice shaky. He was apologizing, begging me to come home, to just forgive them. But I had heard it all before. All the promises, all the excuses. This time, I wasn't going to be swayed. I wasn't going to cave. This was my moment. The next morning, as the holiday lights twinkled outside my window, I sat back, watching my phone light up with more messages. But this time I didn't rush to reply. I didn't need to. I had already made my decision. The more they begged, the more my resolve grew stronger. I wasn't asking for their approval anymore. I wasn't chasing their love. This time, I was doing this for me. The next few days were a whirlwind. My phone had become an emergency hotline for apologies. But no matter how much they begged or how many tearful voicemails I received, I wasn't going to back down. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about respect, boundaries, and finally standing up for myself after all these years. It felt liberating. One evening, I decided to take a walk to clear my mind. The cold air was refreshing, and with every step I took, I felt more confident in the decision I had made. I wasn't just a passive participant in my own life anymore. I was in control. The power had shifted. For the first time in ages, I was free. Free from their expectations. Free from the guilt. Free from the role I had played for so long. The obliging, quiet one who never said no. As I walked past the glowing Christmas lights in the neighborhood, a thought struck me. This was the season of rebirth, of new beginnings. And for me, It was the beginning of a new chapter. No more will I tolerate their demands. No more will I sacrifice my peace for the sake of their convenience. Back at home, I received a final voicemail from Dad. He sounded defeated, his voice cracking as he admitted he had been wrong. But this time, something was different in my heart. I didn't feel the usual rush of guilt or the desire to rush over and fix things. I wasn't the one who needed to fix this anymore. They did. It wasn't just about the money. It was about acknowledging my worth. I listened to the message all the way through and then deleted it. No reply. No response. The ball was no longer in their court. I was done. Later that week, I received a call from the bank. They had reversed the charges, and I was getting my money back. I let out a deep breath. The relief was immediate. My actions had worked. But there was something deeper at play here, something more important than the money. The respect I had craved for so long, it was finally mine. A few days later, I received an unexpected package. It was from my dad. Inside, there was a small gift, a set of personalized cufflinks with my initials engraved. Along with it was a note. I hope this gesture shows how much I regret my actions. I'm sorry for not seeing you for who you really are. You're more than just a daughter. You're my equal. I'll work on being better. It wasn't much, but it was enough. It was a simple acknowledgement, but it spoke volumes. In that moment, I realized that my dad's apology wasn't the closure I had needed. The real closure had come from my own growth, from learning how to say no, from learning how to protect myself. I wasn't dependent on their approval anymore. I wasn't dependent on their love. I had my own, and that was all I needed. As I watched the sunset that evening, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real peace. And it was the best gift I could have ever given myself.